Jack O'Connell's back on the podcast. Jack, hello.
Hello, I'm back.
I feel like you've had an upgrade of all of your systems since we last had you on. You've got not only a very fancy microphone with a fancy microphone arm in front of you, there it is, but you've also gone out and got a green screen and been able to provide a fantastic backdrop to your Zoom camera.
Yep. My new Rebel base. This is all real, by the way. This isn't a green screen. I don't know what you're talking about. This is all very real. For all the visual...
Nah, I won't buy
viewers, this beautiful plasma screen showing all of the escape plans, they're all real.
Where are you? Like, what ship is that? I wouldn't know. I'm not that deep in it. But
this isn't a ship. This is the Rebel base from The Force Awakens, I believe. I don't know, to be perfectly honest. I just Googled Star Wars backgrounds.
You don't know. You can't. You present as a Star Wars aficionado, and you don't even quite.
I recognize that it's from The Force Awakens and it's the Rebel base, but I couldn't tell you what planet it's on or whatever. Okay. I think it got blown up though. So.
Oh, you've got your mug too. Good man. I'm loving that the people coming on have their mugs. Good. Now, these all these purchases you've gone and made, these upgrades to your home studio, because I think if we go back and look at your first appearance on the podcast. The lighting was horrible. The camera quality, I don't know what camera you use, but it was like hard to see.
Yeah,
you were like, where are we?
Just a terrible laptop webcam. Now I've got a very lovely external webcam that sits up on top of my big bloody curved monitor that I've got here. It was all just like, government money paying me while I wasn't working and also doing uni over Zoom. It just everything came together. I was like, I want quality.
Yeah.
I want to feel comfortable. I just want to walk in, sit down, and turn everything on, and it works. So that's what I did. Yeah,
it's that sort of disposable income, I guess, isn't it? We haven't been able to do anything for so long, so why not go out and just set yourself up at home? Well, it looks fantastic. I think you might have the best setup now of maybe anyone that's been on. So. That's good.
Yeah, I'll take that title.
Good little box tick for you. Now, I was just trying to tell you before you should start a podcast. So, everyone, I'm going to keep you all across that because I'm going to force Jack to do a podcast. Maybe something Star Wars related.
Okay.
Because let's be honest. Let's jump into a bit of Star Wars. Mando.
All right. Mando.
Season 2 of Mandalorian has kicked off.
Season 2 of the Mandalorian.
Now,
Mandalorian.
Oh, you went and you made a really good purchase. For those that are watching on YouTube. He's got the Mando helmet. Now, that is Mando's helmet, or is it...
Well, it's Boba Fett's
It's Boba
helmet.
Fett, yeah, okay.
Which is fitting for this season. Spoilers.
That's the difference, isn't it? My pickup is the only difference that distinguishes between, Mando and Boba Fett is the little... what is it, a little flag type thing?
The range finder.
The range finder, is that what that is?
Yeah, in season 2, episode 1, you sort of see it. It sort of folds down, and he's able to sort of target system and fire missiles out of his backpack. So
yep. Okay, so that's what that is.
Does.
Okay.
And the paint job's a bit different. I'm not even sure if it's made of the same material because Mando's armor is made of Beskar, which is that sort of Imperial exchange that they were giving out in the first season. I don't know if you remember that. And he melted it all down and made himself a new set of armor.
Yep.
I'm not 100% sure whether Boba Fett's armor is made of the same material or whether it's, just cheap Jango Fett junk.
Well, Boba Fett, I almost think of him as being a bit more green, almost.
Yeah, he is. He's sort of got a green, red, yellowish paint job. It varies from film to film, though. So in Empire Strikes Back, he's got some different armor pieces that are different colors, and it's all very different.
Because actually, let's just before we get into Mando too much, I want to take a little side detour. This will excite you. I finally went and dived into the Star Wars prequels.
Ah, yes.
I hadn't done it.
The beloved prequels.
Well, it depends who you talk to. I imagine you're probably from a generation where they are quite beloved. I know my cousins growing up, 2001 was Phantom Menace. I was young. Look at this, right? I've got a Darth Vader. This is a new addition to my desk, a massive Darth Vader. Now, this was a release at the time of Phantom Menace and those films.
Right.
But my cousins, their original Star Wars villain was Darth Maul. So, like, to them, the prequels are Star Wars. That's what they were first introduced to. Are you from that generation, or are you maybe from a generation where your dad was right into it and therefore you were educated correctly?
My dad definitely wasn't into it, but his best friend is a big Star Wars collector and fan and, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I always had, growing up, I always had all 6 films on DVD. So it was sort of more that they were always a package deal. It was never like I saw the prequels and then I loved the prequels and then eventually I was introduced to the original trilogy. It was always more like, these are all the Star Wars movies and I like them.
Okay, so
very interesting, yeah.
When it came time for you to be introduced, were you taken through Star Wars from episode 1 through 6?
I couldn't tell you, honestly. I seriously have been watching Star Wars for as long as I can remember. So the first time I watched Star Wars, I could not tell you what order I watched them in. So, but now I do try and watch them sort of original and then prequel order.
Oh, so you do it the way of release rather than chronological.
Yeah. I think that's the way. I don't know. I look at it like it's clearly the way George intended us to view it. Otherwise, he would have made the prequels first, I think.
But you think? I mean, he never had the plan of the prequels, did he?
I think he had the plan. He just didn't think it was a story that would be interesting enough to tell. Sort of off the bat, sort of the first thing you learn is like all this, you know, political jargon and garbage.
Yeah, that was one big thing that I was, because I've obviously...
I was gonna say, watching it as an adult, you must think, Jesus, all this Chancellor and bloody Republic Senate is driving me nuts. Just show me some lightsabers, for God's sake.
It is a bit, and what it also made me think was, shit, if I was a kid trying to watch this for the first time, you wouldn't have a clue what's going on. I mean,
there's lots of fast forwarding through the talking.
Heaps. Like I, you know, now being an adult, you have a bit more of an understanding of governments and stuff. So like you can make sense somewhat of it. But yeah, as a kid, that stuff would have just been going over your head. And the weird part is I guess, I was struggling to work out who the target audience is. Like,
yeah.
I mean, you've got what's his name? The most divisive character of them all.
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks, thank you.
Yes.
One of my mates, David Payne, will be listening to this. Big Star Wars fan. He'll be screaming. He's sick of me forgetting names. Jar Jar Binks, that feels like a kid insertion. That's like, all right, here's something for the kids. They'll love him. But then you've got all this government nonsense. It seems like you're just trying to cater to too many people, and it sort of just gets a little bit muddled in the process. But with that said, I didn't hate it, but it could very well be because I've had for years people slamming them to me and saying how bad they were. I've now watched episode 1 and 2. They're not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they're as good as Return of the Jedi is what I was going to say.
Yeah, exactly right. I always describe it as there's a lot of really cool and like there's a lot of really good moments mixed in with a lot of sort of meh. So you sort of just got to take it as it comes. You know, if you're willing to sit through it, then you will get some pretty good moments out of it, I think.
Yeah.
And some great memes too. Oh, the memes coming out of those prequel movies are the best.
Yeah, I was messaging Justin while I was watching, it was episode 2, and the whole Anakin love thing, and then
hate sand.
Yes, Justin sends me the meme of I hate sand, and I was like, okay, that's not bad. Yeah, a whole new world I've been open to of Star Wars prequel gifs. But it kind of like, having been somebody that had never watched them, well, we will get back to Mandalorian, but having been somebody that had never watched them, I just was really, it rammed home to me that from the outside, I'd always look at episode 1 and go, geez, that Darth Maul just seemed like such a badass character. Why didn't he pop up anymore? And like, obviously I came to learn he's killed off in episode 1. And I was like,
killed off, but chopped in half.
Well, chopped in half And I was watching it when it happened.
Presumed dead.
Presumed dead. Obviously, he comes back later on, spoilers,
Yes.
in Clone Wars and Rebel. But is Rebels set after
Rebels.
these?
Rebels is set, after episode 3.
Oh, okay. So Darth Maul obviously comes back. But given, like, in the movie setting, you watch him get killed off. One, underwhelming as hell when he gets killed. Like, it's just a swift swipe of the lightsaber and he's gone. He's cut in half. But two, it's just like they built him up to be such a badass assassin. It just felt like a wasted opportunity. It's like he could have been, to me, especially as a kid growing up, he was scary as hell. That to me was this is like Darth Vader, not anyone else you come across.
Yeah, what's interesting about the about those movies is clearly George Lucas had a plan that he wanted 3 different villains for each, or 3 sort of, not the main villain. Obviously, Darth Sidious is the main villain, the main Sith that they're all trying to work out who he is and where he's pulling strings from. But George Lucas wanted to set up sort of the 3. I always look at it, so the 3 aspects of what Anakin becomes, like the 3 aspects of Anakin's dark side, his Darth Vader side. Like we've got Darth Maul, who is obviously the anger and the hatred, like just pure rage, expressed through red and black and literal horns on it. Like he's the angry side of it, right? And then we've got in episode 2, we've got Count Dooku, who is the Jedi gone bad. So that's that aspect of Anakin.
Okay, yeah.
And then in the 3rd one, you'll meet General Grievous, who I'm sure you're aware of.
Yeah.
He's, big robot with 4 arms and 4 lightsabers, and this would make a great addition to my collection.
Yep.
And that is the sort of an organic life form, but the only way to survive is being more machine than man at that point, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay, well, that makes sense.
So clearly in the first one, they just wanted to make this character that they knew they could use, but kill off for the next one to come along. Because like they set up, only 2, only ever an apprentice and a master for the Sith. So they can't have a bunch of bad guys running around.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. What I also saw before Lucasfilm was sold to Disney, George Lucas, you'll be aware of this. He had plans, sort of maybe loose-ish plans for a sequel trilogy of his own that he was eventually going to do. And in that, he planned to bring back Darth Maul.
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, as well as Darth Talon.
Darth Talon?
Yeah, so
I don't know much about Darth Talon.
Sith
I know he's
Lord
like
Darth Talon, which is
stuff.
apparently from the comics. Apparently from the Dark Horse comics, it was a big character.
Oh, yeah.
And so he was going to incorporate that into this sequel trilogy of his own before we got the sequel trilogy we got.
Yeah.
But no, I read that and I was like, oh, well, it's nice to know that he at least, someone intended to bring him back. I don't know. It's never going to sit right with me, Jack, that Darth Maul was not used more in the films. He's a scary ass character.
You see him in Solo, I suppose. Is it?
I haven't watched Solo.
For literally 5 seconds.
I haven't watched Solo.
For 5 seconds.
Okay.
I won't lie. It's not worth it. If you want to watch it to see Darth Maul, don't.
I actually think I remember that being a thing at the time. Yes, okay, 5 seconds. Not good enough. All right, let's jump back to Mando. Let's dive into this. So, firstly, I don't actually think I've spoken all that much about Mando on here. Maybe in season 1 I might have touched on it, but I came to it pretty late. And I binged it all. Firstly, hating the weekly release. Hating it.
Really?
Well, I do. Well, I mean, it's something to look forward to. I will give you that.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun that you just want to put on the next one.
I think I kind of enjoy what they're doing because it means that they can take time with it. Like they can have all of this stuff done. So they've sort of shot and filmed this entire season. And now they can sit there and each week release an episode and not feel pressured to be rushing to get the next one ready.
Yep.
They have a lot more time to sit there and write and make it good and compelling. And like, that's a problem that I find a lot of Netflix shows have where they just sort of will release it all at once, And it's just sort of like they're clearly just like mass producing like quick, fast, so they can get a season together and then dump it all on one day. And it also means that like discussions like this, like podcasts or just like, you know, catching up with friends, each week you have something to talk about. You have a new piece of information to discuss. Whereas, you know, you binge a show, you might, you know, go to work the next day or catch up with your friends the next day, and someone has sat there and done an all-nighter and binged it all, but you've only stayed up to watch the first 2 episodes. So suddenly your conversation is sort of stagnated because you're like, well, don't tell me anything past episode 2 because I haven't watched it. And then it's just frustrating for everybody. Maybe that's just me.
No, I hadn't thought of that. That's actually a really good point. I guess it sort of brings back the old days of water cooler chat a little bit with people in the office building. So, like, there was a whole thing in the 90s where, did you see Seinfeld, like, or, you know, whatever show it was, ER.
Did you watch The Simpsons last night?
Did you watch
The
Simpsons?
That couch gag?
Yes. Well, Simpsons was a big one. And, you know, people would stand around at the water cooler and, talk about what they'd watched the night before. You're actually right. You're right. I do enjoy that aspect because there isn't this... I need to watch this all now so nobody else ruins it for me.
And it builds anticipation too. Like it lets people sort of theorize and try and work out where things are going, you know?
Well, I also think that...
Sort of just going, well, I know what's going to happen because I just clicked play on the next episode.
Yeah. I think the way that Star Wars content as a whole... At least from what I've experienced, because I've just started watching Clone Wars, the animated series. Finally got around to that too. Because I'm noticing that that's maybe going to help with my appreciation of Mando a little bit more. Like, I'm just... The more I can consume of Star Wars, there's going to be references that I understand better. That's why I went back and watched the prequels.
Yeah, there's so many references that, just in the first episode, like, I was sort of, like... getting giddy with excitement when like R5 would show up and they zoom in on the bad motivator that exploded in episode 4 and like you get to see it. And it's just like all those cool little moments and like the crate dragon, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you know this, but in episode 4, when Obi-Wan scares away the Tusken Raiders and sort of helps Luke up sort of in the early parts of the movie where he first meets Luke.
Yeah.
He makes sort of a call, like a weird sort of noise, and it sort of scares the Tusken Raiders away. And if you compare that to the sound that the crate dragon makes, it's actually the same sound because it's known that he made the sound of a crate dragon to scare the Tusken Raiders away.
Huh. See,
so they used the same sound for the actual crate dragon, which I thought was cool. Even though the sound in the movie has changed about 4 times with all the different releases, but we won't go there. That's fine.
Yeah, I've seen all the re-engineering of different audio pieces throughout it, but... Yeah, see, that's the shit I want to be part of. I hate not being part of it. I hate when everyone's going, Easter egg. And I look at the Easter egg and I'm like, I still don't get it. Oh, is that what that was? I wouldn't have even noticed. I hate being that guy, especially when I have a pop culture podcast. So I need to do my homework. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But what I've noticed, back to what led me down that rabbit hole, is Star Wars is very good at... whether it's a film or... So a film that's part of a trilogy, each film wraps up and it feels like it wraps up the story, even though there is still things bubbling
more to
away.
Tell and things,
yeah. Same with Clone Wars. Each episode feels very wrapped up and it feels like they've accomplished whatever they were set out to do. And it feels like, okay, I could dust my hands of this, go away for a month and then come back, pick back up, and... I'll be able to jump back in because everything's very nice and tied up with a bow. I've noticed Mandalorian is the same. Like, while yes, there's obviously a bigger story at play, each episode feels like a short story.
Yeah, exactly right.
Very much feels like there's a new issue that's presented to him. And especially season 2, I'm really getting that vibe, is each episode, it's like, in my mind, I can picture it. Episode 2 was the ice episode. Like they were just around a lot of ice and a lot of snow. And episode 1 was they were out in the desert and there was a big dragon. Like
very like
you look at those two,
sort of
you look at those two,
style,
put them next to each other. It feels like 2 very separate things, even though they're from the same season. I'm really liking how Star Wars do that, and I'm really getting an appreciation as to one, why they do it, because they're trying to appeal to both young and old audiences, and there's probably going to be people out there that helps them take in the information a little bit easier and not have to try and play keep up. And two, it's smart storytelling. Like, I've been watching Mando, and I keep saying to people, I'm like, I don't know why, but it's giving me insane Indiana Jones vibes.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
I don't know why. And the fact that Indiana Jones comes to mind, I can't tell you why. It's got nothing to do with, George Lucas's connection to Indiana Jones or anything. Nothing. Yeah. It's just, it's that old-fashioned fantasy adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just, and I'm loving. It
just makes you feel good. It just makes you want to go out and climb in a hole and dig things and...
It does, and escape things. That's the other thing.
Yes.
Escaping monsters and all these random creatures. It is exciting watching Mando, even though the argument could be made it's a pretty slow-paced show.
Yes, but that's what I think that's really good because I've heard a lot of, especially with episode 2, a lot of people have been complaining and calling it a filler episode.
You're joking.
It's sort of, it was, a lot of people was, and I see where they're coming from because obviously it didn't
progress the story that much.
Yeah, exactly. To a basic viewer, it didn't give us much in terms of, getting us to the next point. It sort of felt like a side mission in a video game.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you've got to help this person to get this information you need to get back on track. But what I think they do really well is they set up little things. Like, for example, that frog lady, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
there's going to be spoilers here, by the way, people. We're almost a week in. You should have watched it.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. Frog lady actually appears in like episode 5 of season 1. She's in the bar talking to Dr. Mandible, who's the giant ant, I believe, who he ends up talking to in season 2. Like, can you help me? And he says, yeah, but you need to do something for me, and ends up sending Frog lady to Mando. So it's like, it's little setups like that. You sort of go, okay, so it's already been established that clearly Frog lady and giant ant are friends. I'm just going to call them Frog lady and giant ant. It's easier.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you their names. Yeah.
So like they do little setups like that. And also what I'm hoping and what I feel good about is they're setting up more things as they go, especially in this episode as well, with like the X-Wing pilots, who one of them was actually Dave Filoni as well, which I thought was cool.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he was.
Which one?
Obviously
not the Asian guy.
Not the Asian one. Yeah, not the Asian one. The other one's an Asian actor, and he's quite well known.
Did we see the face of the other one?
Yeah, we do.
How did I not pick up on that? That is bizarre. Actually, I want to touch on this for a second. So the Asian pilot, did he appear in previous films?
I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure.
The only reason I asked was that was an example of something where when they came into shot, I felt that shot of the pilots in their jets. I was like, it felt like it was shot in a way where, this should be a reveal to big Star Wars fans of, look who's back. Like, you remember these guys? They were... And I'm obviously not. Like, if you didn't know, I would imagine not the case. Because that would be far too deep of a cut for anyone to enjoy. But I did wonder.
I really like the fact that they do that though. Like they throw those little Easter eggs in. Like in the first season, they sort of did, a lot of the directors appeared as X-Wing pilots, or or they had the voice of Anakin from the Clone Wars series played the prison guard in that episode. And it's like all those little things that like they don't necessarily make them a big character and draw attention to them and say, look at this person who you recognize as being, iconic in Star Wars. They just sort of put them in and say, here's a little nod. Here's a little, here's something for you that you can just sort of be happy that they're there.
It's almost a little reward for people that have taken the time to be along for the ride the whole time. And that probably comes back more to Jon Favreau than anything. I mean, it's not George Lucas sitting there going, hey,
no,
good job for still sticking with all this. It's Jon Favreau going, I would enjoy seeing this little nod because he's a fan.
Exactly right.
That's where it all starts.
A big fan.
But yeah, to that point about, people complaining it's a filler episode, it's funny. I feel like my enjoyment of the show has moved like, yes, I've got an interest in what's going to happen with Baby Yoda or the child, and what's going to happen with Mando. But I also tune in each week for the new adventure. Like, what's going to happen this week? Where are they going to go? Not necessarily where's the story going to go. What sort of challenges are going to be presented to him? What sort of shit's Baby Yoda going to have to do this week that, using the Force, that we're going to be like, oh, that's cool. I'm there for, again, the Indiana Jones of it all. I can't tell you really much. I can't really sit here and go, oh, this part in Indiana Jones was great, or that story arc was really good. I just know Indiana Jones would have to, confront all these different obstacles in order to get a treasure, and then that's what it's about. And so
that sort of in episode 2 with the giant spiders and sort of all the waves of spiders running through the caves, it felt very much like an indie thing. Like they've realized that they're in a dangerous place, and now they've got to run from this, sort of ever encroaching danger, whether it's a big boulder or a giant flood of water coming, or huge ants, even though that's the worst of the Indiana Jones movies, but we won't go there.
It's true, though. There is a lot of similar nods. And I guess that probably just goes back to Favreau and his... Again, it's a love for that genre. And you're going to make the argument, Star Wars and Indiana Jones, they cut from the same genre. So it's a lot of what Mando is a love letter to things like Star Wars. And that era of filmmaking, I think. I mean, obviously he's using insane technology these days, but even down to the... I believe I'm correct on this. There is still a lot of puppets used in Mando, correct?
Yeah. That's
correct. So we live...
Like the giant ant.
No.
No, he's a big bloody ant.
Yeah, of course. But, it's definitely... When you could use CG and create really impressive things, yet you choose to still use puppets where possible.
Yeah.
In order to keep that same feel that the original movies had, that's making a choice to stay in line with something you have appreciation for. Yeah. So that's what I like about it. Right. I mean, I remember when I first watched season 1, I might have even spoken about this on here. It rings a bell. And I was watching it, not knowing what I was going into, not really knowing much about The Mandalorian in general, the whole thing. But and I'm watching, I'm like, I messaged somebody, it might have even been you, and I'm like, it feels kind of old. Like, it feels like they're using old technology. And then I had it explained to me, no, that's a choice. And then as I learned that, I'm like, I appreciate it more. So I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I one thing that really stuck out to me is the giant ant, right? Because obviously that is a practical puppet. It's a very simple sort of. It's just an ant upscaled and sitting on a bench.
Yep.
And if you saw it in any other modern movie now, you'd probably go, "Oh, gee, that looks pretty cheap." Like that's literally just there's a giant ant just molded and sat on a bench. It looks sort of weird and wonky, and why couldn't they use CGI to make something a bit more interesting?
Yeah.
But it reminds me of episode 4, where you walk into the thing is a giant cricket or like a giant praying mantis sitting in the corner of the bar, which was again just a practical effect of just a large mantis that they had. And it's like, it sort of helps you go, this is Star Wars. Like this is what Star Wars is.
Yes.
Anything else would feel wrong. Like if you put a CGI ant in Star Wars, you go, well, I don't feel like I'm watching Star Wars anymore. Like I don't know. It's sort of following the rules you set up for yourself, or following the tradition that you set up for yourself as you make a universe within films and television.
I think it stops it from just feeling like every other sci-fi film. I mean, how many sci-fi movies do we get? How many sci-fi movies with aliens do we get? It's something, you're 100% right. It's something that it sets a tone and a style to the movies, which it's instantly identifiable as soon as you see it. So yeah, I appreciate it. As much as some people might go, they could update this shit. I think that's half of the issue I maybe had with some of the prequels watching them. I was like, they've really lent on new technology, and you can feel it when you watch it.
That's the thing. Because obviously the original trilogy, that was groundbreaking for technological advances. Like they built the first, motion control camera rig for sort of blue screen shots of the miniature ships flying around.
Yep.
They, ILM and Lucasfilm are responsible for building the Pixar computer that they sold to Pixar. Can Pixar what it is, you know what I mean? And like Star Wars, in terms of not just being a fun fandom and like people love the movie. Star Wars, in terms of practical and real world advances for film and television, it revolutionized everything. Like there is nothing that it didn't. You could trace every bit of technology from now that is being used back to Star Wars. I reckon. Like it's seriously, it's that encroached in what film has become. And what I think George Lucas did when he was making the prequels is he wanted that feeling again.
Yeah.
He wanted that sort of, what can we do with technology? What can we push to the limit and, send through the roof? Like, what can we really revolutionize it again?
Yeah.
And that's when CGI was starting to come to the rise. Obviously, like I said, they built the first, Pixar computer. So there was basic animation. They were still just working out kinks. And it was groundbreaking at the time. Like, I won't lie, but it didn't feel comfortable for a lot of people to watch, I suppose, because it didn't feel like Star Wars.
Yeah, I think, and I guess the flip side of that is I watched the sequel trilogy we got, which has just finished up, and watching that, take away whatever arguments you want to say about story or anything like that, just looking at it as a film, you walk away and you go, this is how I wish the original trilogy looked. No, the original trilogy looked. Like,
really?
Well, let's face it, all right? So, I mean, you grew up on it. I grew up on it a little bit, but not really. Coming to it and getting an appreciation for it later in life, and now with there being 9 films, I know that original trilogy, at least the first 2, are the best movies of the lot, correct? Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yep.
It's disappointing a little bit from an outsider's point of view that I wish they looked as crisp and as nice and as... Because it's space. Space should be futuristic and really... But now it's dated. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a knock on the films at all. It's just... It's a shame that the best movies were made so long ago that technology's come so far since then that it's a little bit more eye-catching when you watch it. You're like, these were done at a very different time. That's the only thing. Like, if Star Wars looked, the original Star Wars, Episode 4, looked like any of the new movies did, the sequels, I reckon I'd watch it regularly. Especially,
but you won't because it looks interesting.
No, I won't. Well, yeah.
But didn't you just recently go to the drive-in and watch the '89 Batman?
Different, because I grew up on that. Okay. I grew up on that. So to me, same for you with Star Wars. It's nostalgia, and to me, I still watch that, and I can look at it now and go, "Oh yeah, it's pretty old." But to me, it transports me to how I watched it as a kid. And as a kid, this was mind-bending, this whole thing. I was watching Batman. Like, that is Batman. I was like, that's legit. And I went and watched it, and I watched it with Georgia, who had never seen it. And I said to her, I'm like, it looks pretty old, doesn't it? And she's like, no, it didn't look too bad. But I also think that's because it's not set in space. It's just set in...
okay.
It's set on Earth. So there's something to me about space where it should be very fancy, very futuristic, very crisp, and I don't know. I don't know how to say it. And again, it doesn't take...
I get what you're saying.
It doesn't take away from the original movies at all. Like, you still watch them and you're like, these are the best movies. Yeah. It's just a shame that they don't look the same. Like, you can watch the prequels and then dive into the sequel trilogy, and they feel somewhat in the same ballpark. Not the exact same, but like they're cut from a more similar cloth.
Funny that it was around the prequels time that George Lucas decided to release, the special editions where he now had the sort of computing technology to update the original trilogy and add in certain effects shots or do things slightly differently and change it up. And that is why I think Star Wars is one of those rare cases where the very original, which you're right, is dated and sort of cheap things, is so sacred to people because it's so hard to access because of the way George Lucas has decided to release it with, doing the special editions and changing it constantly, that there's so many different versions that exist that having one of the originals, one of the, VHSs or whatever you've got of the original sort of theatrical release is like people would kill for it. They love it.
Yeah, I know what
Obviously,
you mean.
You not being a fan would just go, it's just crappy effects. But people being fan would go, but it's like,
it's what started it all. It's the thing that started this whole thing, not these new versions we got. And that goes back to your whole point about the audio engineering and stuff in the time since then. I probably have never seen the original. Have you seen the true original cut?
Yes, I have.
Oh. Have you got a copy?
I have a few. Yeah, I've got a few sort of. There was a DVD release like once that released it very in a crappy quality on a DVD. There's laser discs, there's VHSs out there. I bought a Blu-ray version of it, which is sort of a fan project, the despecialized editions. So sort of someone has painstakingly gone through and reconstructed the film the way it was theatrically released using Blu-ray footage and sort of adding in certain things and just tweaking it. And
yeah. I just realized how off topic we've got from Mandalorian.
Yeah, no, we went way too far into Star Wars.
So
this is what happens when you get me on. I just lose.
That's why I like getting you on, because it just becomes a convo. But in terms of Mando, you're happy with it. You're not having an issue with these whole episodic filler episode argument. You like where it's going?
Happy. Yeah, I do. I'm very happy with it because the second episode really, I felt, great sort of commentary on Mando's relationship with the child. Like there were a lot of really great moments that they shared, sort of him telling him off for, like taking him to bed and like putting him in his little cradle thing and little things like that. And obviously I think it's pretty obvious that that's what they were doing because they sort of put them next to a mother and her eggs. You know what I mean? Like it's that sort of parental feeling that you get from the episode. And even think about the giant mother spider that attacks them because Baby Yoda ate one of her children.
Mm-hmm.
It's all there, and people are just going, no, it's boring because Frog Lady sucks. I don't know.
There's something so simple, and it goes hand in hand with what you're saying. But I picked up on the Baby Yoda eating the eggs from the container and being told off. Very reminiscent of a child dipping their hand in the cookie jar, being told off by the parent. Like little things like that, very parental and sort of, 100%. That's what they're trying to set up. And they need to, because otherwise, why in hell would Mando go to such effort to protect this child at all costs? Like,
exactly.
There needs to be an emotional connection. And by this point, season 2, that's more believable. That's more buyable that there is. So, yeah, I think the character progression's been great in it so far. I mean, was there 8 episodes in season 1?
I think so.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't actually remember.
So we've got a few. Right. We've still got another 6 to go. So who knows where it'll go between now and then. But yeah, I'm liking it a lot. Liking Mando.
Good. I'm glad.
have you been watching anything else?
What have I been watching? Not really. I'll tell you what, I was looking into a lot sort of the new Spider-Man things going on.
Yes.
So
okay.
With I want to get into this because this fascinates me, this new multiverse thing that they're possibly setting up. I still think it's up in the air. Obviously, they've got Doctor Strange coming out, which is called, what is it, Multiverse of Madness or something like that?
Yep.
So clearly something is going to happen there. But obviously the rumors that I don't know if it's rumors or if it is confirmed that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire have been cast in that or in Spider-Man or one of the two or something like that.
It's not confirmed yet, but it's strongly... It's the same as... Yeah, look, it's going to happen. It seems very much like Disney are waiting for the opportune moment to release it because it's going to be huge news, but it sounds like it's all but announced, I guess.
Yes.
So what fascinates you about it?
Well, I think we've talked about this on a previous episode, but we sort of focused more on the DC side of it. But with Marvel setting up this, what do we call it? Do we call it the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse? Does that just encapsulate every single Marvel film ever? That's what I want to... First question for you. Do you think that's what we're going to have to do now? Now there's no more of this Marvel Cinematic Universe that's just like, sort of the Iron Man to Endgame films. It's that group of films, and then there's other Marvel movies. Now it's the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse, which is literally just every Marvel movie or TV show ever.
Yeah, I guess there could very well be a rebranding. It would make sense because it sounds like they're definitely going to... I mean, the reality is that they're probably going to spin off... If these Spider-Man appearances do happen with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, I would be shocked if there's then not a Disney Plus series with something relating to their world of Spider-Man. It might not be them directly, but it could be... I don't know. It could be a range of things. Therefore, yes, these ventures into these other multiverse or universe, they're not going to be one hits. They're going to be sort of opening up a realm of a possibility for new shows. So yes, I mean, a rebranding probably works, but the rebranding would be able to encompass everything that's come before. It transitions from the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse, the MCM.
The MCM.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds like a car company.
It sounds like an LCM. It's actually, that's the first thing that came to mind. Yeah, you're probably right. Probably needs to be a rebranding. That's okay, though. I don't have an issue with that. Is there another issue you've got? You look like you're about to raise your hand.
Follow-up question. If this is the way they're heading, who would you like to see return? Would you like, Jessica Alba Fantastic Four, or would you like Michael B. Jordan Fantastic Four? Or do you want both of them? Do you want them to meet and fight and finally decide who is the worst?
Yeah. It's a good question. It's not a bad question.
Or do we want, I don't know, who else is there? Like Blade? Blade's Marvel, isn't he?
Blade is Marvel, but Blade has been recast. So...
interesting. Okay, that's
what's his name? Mahershala Ali or what? Oh, God, I'm going to have to correct my pronunciation there. But so we're not getting Wesley Snipes, very unfortunately. But
I mean, we could. Why couldn't we?
We could. Absolutely. We could have multiple.
Multiverse.
We could have multiple Blades. What's Green Book? It's the guy from Green Book.
Oh, yeah.
Mahershala Ali. Okay. I stuffed up the pronunciation. Yeah. So he's Blade now. But so, okay. That's what I want to stop you at because I can jump off from here. I've got a couple of things. So I agree. This is where the issue of the multiverse for Marvel is going to be an issue. So there's these rumors circulating. I spoke about this a couple weeks ago that, okay, cool, we're going to get Tobey Maguire and or Andrew Garfield. Fantastic. And that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is going to act as a way to bring the past Marvel films together in the same way that Flash is going to bring together all the DC variations of films.
Yeah.
My issue, right, is it's also said and believed that in Multiverse of Madness, Wolverine/Logan will be introduced. But not Hugh Jackman. So my issue becomes, it's very confusing. It's very confusing because what we're doing is we're introducing, and this is all speculation, but we're introducing characters we've got a previous knowledge of and actors we've got a previous history of watching play these characters. So you have Tobey Maguire drop in. You're like, oh, he's back. Andrew Garfield drops in. Oh, my God, this is great. And then you've got someone else as Wolverine. You're like, oh, who's that? And then they're like, oh, his name's Logan. You're like, oh, what version of Logan's that? I don't think I've seen that one. Instantly, you're taken out of the movie. You're not paying attention because it's too... It goes against the whole point of the movie. The whole point of the movie, okay, you can make the argument that it's just to bring together and create an expanded universe. That's fine, but then don't bring back Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield.
Right, yeah.
It's a little bit too confusing. You got to remember that not everyone is as switched on with this shit as you and I are, but some people don't care. They're just going to enjoy a movie. I just think you got to be careful with that. You got to be really careful that it's not presented as a, hey, we're bringing everyone back that you love from the old movies and it's going to be one big thing. And then they get in there.
Except Wolverine. Go fuck
Except Wolverine, because, Hugh Jackman doesn't want to do it anymore. I think if you're going to do it, you've got to have Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. You have to. Or you just introduce Logan at a different point.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it rumored that Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool is going to be involved somehow, I think? Is that...
I think so. Again, this could just be fans throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
It could be.
Yeah.
But I think that might be a more comfortable way to lean into it because he can be there sort of being the fans or being the commentator of it, sort of acknowledging, with a fourth wall break, saying, hang on a minute, who the hell is this bloke? This isn't Hugh Jackman. You know what I mean?
That's
hilarious. That sort of things like that you could sort of pull into, and he could make jokes about there being all the multiple Spider-Men and how their movies failed or how their contracts didn't get renewed or whatever. Like it could be that sort of fan servicey way while still keeping with what is consistent with the characters and how the world should or would work.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't actually thought of that. I don't know if that's the issue with Marvel coming off Avengers and the grandness of it and the seriousness and the darker tone, you could even argue, of it. It's hard to see where they're going to go from here. Spider-Man's one thing. Spider-Man's its own sort of entity at this point. It's going to do its own thing over there, similar to what Iron Man did. Like, the character has the ability to go comedy and serious and dramatic and action all in one. Doctor Strange, I kind of feel like, is that like Doctor Strange and Deadpool on the camera together? I just feel it's going to be a bit jarring.
Yes, yeah, I agree with that.
It just feels like it's going to be a very smart movie, and to have Deadpool there, even though I think it's a great idea, I reckon Marvel could sit there and go, it could take away from the intellect that is Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I don't know. That would be a great way to do it, though. I would pay money for it. But I don't know what they're going to do with Deadpool, but I understand the thoughts around the Marvel cinematic multiverse. It also just feels like the fast food wars, the Macca's versus Hungry Jacks, or even the soda wars, the Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. It just feels like Marvel versus DC. As much as they don't want to admit that there's a war, there is an arms race to get to a multiverse, and who can do it better. You look at it from the outside and you go, well, Marvel's got this track record of they haven't really put a foot wrong. They have, but we turn a blind eye because of so much that they've done right.
Yes.
And they've got a proven ability to weave different stories in and really make it work.
Yeah.
I think what will be the telling point of this whole thing between who pulls off the multiverse better, it's not going to be looking at Flashpoint or comparing Flashpoint and Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. So you're not going to be able to compare those and say, one did it better than the other. It's going to be 5 years' time when we look back on what they've done with multiverse stories between then and now, and be able to get an idea of, okay, who was able to capitalize on it better. I think the model that Warner Brothers and DC are approaching with, they've become far more of a director-based operation. So the directors are given a lot of leniency, a lot of freedom to go about creating their own movie because they have the approach of, hey, this is going to be its own thing over here. Like it's in the
We'll reboot it in 2 years anyway.
Exactly, yeah, and it won't matter because we'll say it's from another universe. Whereas Marvel, there's still going to be that overarching control and wanting to... Yeah, there's a lot more planning where... I mean, we saw Joker. Joker's a fantastic movie, and it just exists in this... What will then, by then, be established as, oh, Joker's part of the multiverse. Like, that's just one of the stories told. And I think that's what a multiverse should be. I don't think they should always be overlapping with each other and cross-pollinating with it. You know what I mean? They don't need to. They should be, I'm looking out into our multiverse and there's that over there, there's that over there. I just reckon that the model that Warner Brothers have might be better suited to it. Yeah. But I don't know. I could very well be wrong.
It is that fine line because I think it's fair to say that a lot of people's headcanon is that all of these movies, whether it's Marvel or DC, they're all already within a multiverse.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people would say, yeah, they all exist in this multiverse and they're all slightly different worlds. Whereas to, a casual viewer, you want to be careful not to go too hard into, all right, well, now we're going to show you that it is a multiverse because we're going to bring them all together or we're going to, sort of show them all linking up and crossing paths and doing all these sorts of things? Or do you just leave it for the fans to know, just to sort of have this, their own personal satisfaction with it? Because you push it too far, right, it just becomes gobbledygook.
Yeah. No, it does. And I reckon that's where the issue will be, is that when these get released, these movies, it's going to be very interesting to see audience scores of these movies. I mean, obviously, you can have your diehards, which are going to give it 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. But you can have a lot of people that are like, I thought Ben Affleck was Batman. I don't like
Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Like they can just sort of pull back on their previous opinions about older things. Like, for example, I said the Fantastic Four thing is a joke, right? They bring back that Fantastic Four. People will talk shit about them for days because they just, that negative association is written into that group. So, and it's whether or not studios or producers or whatever would be willing to take that risk at putting something that they know fans don't like into a movie. And there is not to say it doesn't work, because there is sort of that you could redeem them, or it could just be a nice little nod rather than we're going to focus on them now. But it's that fine. Yeah, it's very political. Like you hate to say it, but making movies is a very political and dangerous thing to sort of
navigate.
It's a balancing act. It's
There is something to be said though on that Fantastic Four point. You could take a movie that was deemed as shit, give it to Marvel, they, deassemble it and then, use all the same stuff though. And because it's now under the Marvel Kevin Feige banner, it'll be accepted.
It's good.
It's
really.
I think there's something to it. I think, and that's fine. It comes back to what I said before, which was they've got such a track record with doing well that they have so much good faith from their audience and their fan base, where people go,
so it's like stick a Gucci brand on a t-shirt and suddenly it's worth $1,000. Is that?
Point? I mean, people forget Thor 2 because we got Thor 3. But it's true. Like, we forget about it and we go...
I 100% agree.
And people just sit there and they go, well, Marvel have never done a bad movie. Okay, gonna stop you there. Probably have. There's something to be said about that. That's all I'll say. If there's a brand that's associated with success and there's a big enough fan base, things can get forgiven. So I wouldn't rule out them bringing back the most controversial version of Fantastic Four, even though I'm still on the side of bringing in John Krasinski as...
of the new Fantastic Four.
Yes, I want a new Fantastic Four. I don't want any of the previous versions. I just want them... I don't know, it goes against my whole argument at the start, doesn't it? Now I'm sort of advocating for only bringing back characters or
Give
bringing
me
in
what
characters.
I want.
Yes. That's not much to ask. It's not much to ask.
Yeah.
You know what else, though? I actually wanted to flag
Yes.
something with you. Going off the Marvel stuff,
Bring it on.
I've sort of unknowingly fallen into this whole new world of fandom that I hadn't been part of before. The world of Neil Gaiman. Are you familiar with Neil Gaiman? Have you?
I don't think I am.
No? Okay. Well, I'm going to really introduce you to somebody. You're going to love this.
Okay, go.
Because you would be familiar with Good Omens on Amazon. Did you see that series that came out last year? And it's based on an angel and a demon and their friends.
I did see it. I didn't watch it all, but I have sort of seen clips of it and bits
Hugely
of it. Yeah.
controversial, to the extent where it's since been cancelled. So it got one season, got cancelled because the Catholic Church and the Christians just were up in arms. And you watch it, as somebody that's not a massively religious person,
Yeah.
I just find it freaking hilarious. It is amazingly written, and it's all based off a book that Gaiman wrote with another guy. His name escapes me. But I was listening to a podcast, the Tim Ferriss podcast, which if you haven't listened to it, it's quite good. He has some really good guests on, and Neil was on that. And I'd always, in pop culture, Neil Gaiman is massive for American Gods, Good Omens, but more so his comic book work on Sandman. So he wrote all of the Sandman series. You might not be familiar with that. I've got it here to dive into because it's just it's considered one of the best comics of all time.
Yeah.
But I'd never pulled the trigger. And then I listened to this podcast with him, and he's a British guy, and there's something about the British where when they talk, they're very they're captivating. Yeah, and they sound.
Do you know his middle name is Richard?
Neil Richard Gaiman.
Neil Richard McKinnon Gaiman.
I didn't know any of that. You sure you're looking at the right guy?
Oh, maybe it's not.
No, it probably
Says he's an author.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's only one author, I guess. But what it made me do, listening to him and to listen to him talk about his writing and his stories, I was like, oh, you know what? He was talking about certain books that he'd written and how he worked on the characters and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, this guy, I'm getting why people hold him in such a high regard. You know what? I'll try Good Omens on Amazon, and that'll be my launching in point. See if I go anywhere from there. Amazing. I mean, I don't want to oversell it, but I didn't expect a heap going in. Hilarious. The effects are great. The story, the narrative, and the way it's structured, it sort of jumps between different. I mean, these are angels and demons that have been on Earth for 6,000 years, and they've been friends for 6,000 years, and they're not meant to be friends, and so they work together to try and prevent the end of the world. And so that's what this whole story is, and it's heaven versus hell, and it's those two going against their sides to work together to prevent the inevitable of the end of the world. It is so creative, and all it's made me do is think I'm going to go pick up a Neil Gaiman book. I think I'm going to launch into an audio book.
Oh, interesting. You know, he wrote Coraline in 2002.
He wrote Coraline. And so, I haven't seen Coraline. Have you?
Yeah, I have. I've seen Coraline.
That's meant to be really good.
I
think it was.
It gave me nightmares.
Well, that's why I haven't watched it. When it was out, I was thinking, that looks a bit scary for me. I like my animated films a little bit. I mean, I'm the guy that watched Toy Story.
You like Trolls. You like Trolls and Toy Story.
I watched Toy Story 1, and it got to the end with the deformed toys that were shoved onto robots, and they were creepy as. That was too much for me, let alone Coraline. But yeah, so if you're looking for something to watch, I recommend giving Good Omens a go. If you've got Amazon, it's really good, really good. That would be my recommendation.
He wrote the book in 1990.
Yeah, so it's pretty old. It's pretty old in terms of being developed for a TV series, but it is disappointing that it got cancelled. Freaking cancel culture, man. I'm telling you, people are out to they can get anything cancelled now. If Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he's got all the money in the world. It wouldn't bother him at court. Throw him a couple mil just to shut up and so you could make season 2. The bloke's the richest bloke in the world. I don't know. I was disappointed by that. I also kind of felt like it wouldn't have been cancelled if it was on Netflix. I feel like Netflix is really good at standing its ground on things that are controversial. I mean, there was that bloody film that came out a month or two ago that there was outcry that it depicted young girls in a pornographic way. And it was
Jesus.
Yeah, it was a French film, and it's by this really highly regarded director. Yeah. So like you could argue there's a bit of a culture clash, but you could also argue that it wasn't untrue. Like the way that kids dress these days is it's sometimes a bit provocative. Like,
yeah.
And like they're kids that are like in a dance school, and like, yes, it's an odd movie to exist, but but people were saying this is like it should be illegal. People are going to sue Netflix and sue the director, but it's not like he wasn't representing reality and what is real in the world. And I mean, to the point about Good Omens, it's a story. It's a fictional story.
Yeah.
Yet the church is holding up the Bible, going, "This is not accurate." Yeah, well, it's imagination. Who cares?
It's not meant to be accurate.
You don't like it? Well, lucky you, because it doesn't. I mean, it goes against your reality, but that's fine because it's not presenting as reality. Yeah. So I don't know. I was a bit disappointed. I reckon if you go watch it, you'll get a good kick out of it. I will be
equally as disappointed that there's no season 2. I
hate watching things where I know they've been cancelled, and I know that I don't know if this ends in a nice tied up way.
Oh, it's like watching a movie that you know, like, or it's like for example, the prequel trilogy, right? You think about, you know that certain characters are going to die, so you're sitting there watching them like, ah.
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to kill him in the end. Yeah, I wonder how they're going to tie this up. I hope they tie it up before, without it just not getting a season 2. It's a horrible way to watch something. You're never really appreciating it.
You're just thinking, all right, what are they going to do?
Yeah. Did you see that Netflix have increased their price, by the way? $2 a month.
All right, I'm cancelling my net.
I reckon I'm cancelling.
I didn't know that. I'm cancelling. I'm done. I don't need it.
I was pissed off by that.
What do I watch on it? Nothing.
That's story of my life at the moment. I've got all the subscription services, and I reckon I watch something on one of them at a time. I never watch multiple things. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so Netflix, to sum things up, I might cancel that for the $2 price increase. Are you watching anything else? You got any final recommendations before we wrap this up? Anything, books, anything like, it doesn't have to be movies.
What have I been doing?
Actually, but while you think, I'll throw this at you, give you a little bit of thinking time. Okay. Movies are opening back up here.
Yes.
Are you in a rush to go and see Tenet? Are you going to go see it?
Nah, not really.
It's funny, I was, but I almost feel like so much time's passed now where it's just the excitement of that. It's sort of, I mean, it's not in the news anymore. So I'm not seeing stories like Tenet, this, that. It's not front of mind. So I'm not in a real rush to get out. Like, I don't know. I don't think that was the thing that was going to grab me, maybe. And I'm like, I can maybe wait. Is there? I didn't hear enough great things. Mind you, probably not enough people saw it. But I didn't hear enough great things to really go, God, I must see that on the big screen before it leaves. So I might go, but I'm not in the rush that I thought I might be.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was never really keen on it. I don't know why. It just sort of never really grabbed me. Like, I saw trailers for it and stuff, and I was just like, oh yeah, cool. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not even
100% sure what it's about, if I'm honest. I just like,
it's just another mind-bending Christopher Nolan film, isn't it? It's just, yeah. Sure, it's great.
Like, I'll see it when I'm sitting at home and I'm comfortable, and I don't have to sit there and try and work out what's going on with my brain. I can sort of pause it and just like chill out and sort of process things as they're happening, because they're a lot to take in when you see them. Like a lot of Chris Nolan's movies and stuff.
I don't mind that thought of being able to pause as well. Like I hate pausing a movie when I'm watching it, but for the purpose of being able to really just take a moment, because you end up having to see a Nolan film twice. I mean, I watched Interstellar not that long ago for this podcast and watched it, and I was like, God, I feel like I'm learning new things, and it's probably the 4th time I've seen it.
Yeah. That's the trouble with those kind of movies, is like there's so much to take in, and it's all hitting you like so fast and like constantly that you sort of lose focus for a second, and suddenly it's a brick to the face because you're just lost. You just don't know what's going on.
Yeah, okay, well, we're probably in agreement there. Did you have any recommendations, or you got none? You got none for us?
I don't know. I watched Borat too, but you didn't like it very much, so I won't recommend that.
I did not like it. I mean, I spoke about it. It was just something about it where I just kept thinking, how much of this is real? Having gone and done more research on it since,
I understood your point.
It seems like he very much tries to make it as real as humanly possible. So it gave me appreciation for it after I'd watched it. It was more just in that initial viewing. I was like, especially not having seen Borat in full for a long time.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, I feel like it would have been different before everyone knew who he was.
It is very different films. I will say that. The first Borat movie, you can just tell, like, it was released at a time. Budget was very low. They, like single camera, just like you can tell the camera quality is not that great. It's very basic, simple sort of stuff.
Yes.
Obviously, there's a lot more production value in this.
Yeah.
This is very similar to, I don't know if you watched his series, Who is America?
I started watching it just the other day.
At the moment.
Yep. It's.
Oh yeah, I will recommend that. Then that I'll recommend, because I rewatched that after watching Borat 2, and they are very similar in terms of the production value and also that sort of sense of, well, obviously they know the camera's there and they know they're being interviewed by these people, but they're not aware why they're being set up this way.
Yep.
So that is certainly what Borat 2 is. Yes, they have agreed to be on camera and to talk and to do all these things, but they're going to get led down a path that is probably not what they had foreseen.
Yeah.
Which is going to leave them in a precarious position.
Yeah. That's what I learned that made it a bit more easy to digest for me, was learning that it's all in the producers. It's all in how they bring these people in and what they tell them.
How they suggest that they're going to be on TV for a different show, or lead them down this false path.
Yeah, that, what's it called again? That Stan one, the
Who is America?
Who is America? When I watched that, I threw it on after I watched Borat, and whoa, that's what I'm talking about. That's where you're watching it going, they don't really understand what's happening here. There's more of a sense of that, and especially he's dressed as characters you don't know. So it's not as easily identifiable. So yeah, if you want a nice cringeworthy, like hilarious,
so uncomfortable, watching
uncomfortable.
People voice their opinions, but the opinions are horrid. It's just So have you watched it all? You haven't watched it all.
I've watched, I think, 3 episodes of it. It's honestly, it's an effort to get through just based on like, God, I need a break.
It's like a Christopher Nolan movie. There's so much happening, so many thought-provoking things. Just insane. There's so much racism.
Yeah, heaps of racism, heaps of very casual racism. I
love. I don't know if you've seen it, but there is a clip where Borat is dressed as this woke sort of property developer, and he goes to this small town in America, and he suggests building the world's second largest mosque and sort of bringing tourism to this small town.
Yeah.
And a guy at the back of the room, sort of sitting there with his arms crossed after a lot of talking and yelling, he proudly admits, he says, "I'm racist towards Muslims." He just sits back with his arms crossed. He says, "I'm racist towards Muslims."
Did people clap?
You can sort of see on Sacha Baron Cohen's face that he's like, "Oh, he just said that." Okay. And he has to like stay in character and keep going with this. It's so funny.
They're the best moments when you see him presented with gold that he wasn't expecting, and you can see him think
he talks about it in interviews all the time. Like he tries to get things, and a lot of the time it fails. Like, for example, he tries later on in the show, he tries to get OJ Simpson to admit to murdering his wife.
Yeah.
He literally sits in a hotel room with OJ Simpson and sort of starts like trying to lead the conversation into him actually admitting guilt, which he didn't do, but it's still so funny that he's constantly just jabbing for little things. And when he gets it, it's like the classic, it's like, what does Joker say? I'm like a dog chasing a car. I wouldn't know what to do if I caught one.
Yes.
It's that sort of thing. Like you once he gets it, it takes him a second to go, oh my God, we have to keep moving. We have to keep pushing it now and see what else we can get out of it.
Well, he goes funny about it in such a way where he overwhelms the person he's talking with so much ridiculousness that it's inevitable that they're going to give him one thing.
They're going to slip up. Yeah,
they're going to slip up.
Or they're just going to proudly admit they're racist to Muslims. That too.
Well, Americans are very willing to do that for the most part.
Yes.
Anyway, for the most part.
Sorry, American viewers.
No, it's not all of you. It's just there's a good majority that appear in his films. That's all. That's a good recommendation. I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand with last week, so I'll take that very happily. Now, I just want to let you know, no spoilers for episode 3 of Star Wars, because I've been instructed I'm best to watch Clone Wars and then go into episode 3. Correct?
Yeah, I'd say so. Definitely. Because there is a lot of things being set up that you will need to know.
I love appealing to the Star Wars intellects out there. They love when their opinions asked.
Have you seen Rebels? You haven't seen Rebels, have you?
No, come on. I havenent seen Clone Wars. That's the better one, isn't it?
Yeah, but Rebels is kind of... There's a few crossover plot points and things more interesting. But you can just watch a summary video on YouTube. That's fine. It'll work.
But don't I watch Rebels after episode 3? This is where Star Wars lets itself down. This is, you know what this is going to be? This is going to be the Star Wars, the Marvel universe after the multiverse opens. People aren't going to know what's where.
So you're watching the Clone Wars right now. Sorry,
yes.
We're going to go over time. I want to like wrap my head around this.
Yeah.
You haven't watched the season finales of Clone Wars, have you? You're sort of just catching up and then you'll watch the finales.
Yes. Yes.
So the ones that sort of came out earlier this year or last year, whenever they came out.
Oh no, yes, I haven't watched the last season. No, I've started from season 1, episode 1, and I'm up to I think episode 10 or something.
Right. So here's where it's going to get confusing. If you want to watch it in chronological order, what you need to do is when you get to the last season, you actually need to sit there and cut between watching the Clone Wars and watching episode 3. Because
get fucked.
Those episodes, I know it's problematic and it's confusing as hell.
You're joking.
You either need to watch episode 3 first in its entirety and get your head around that, and then watch the final season of Clone Wars, or that's obviously the way a lot of people have seen it, and that it works for them. But if you do want to watch it chronologically, technically, yes, you have to sit there and watch 20 minutes of the Clone Wars, and then at 20 minutes and 39 seconds cut to minute 5 second 3 of...
I'll stop you right there, because let's be honest, I'm not going to do that. What would you suggest, though, is the better to do? Watch episode 3, then the final season, or watch the final season, then episode 3?
Watch episode 3, then the final season.
Okay, well that's what I'll do, Jack. I'm not sitting there pausing between. I'd have to be running multiple screens at that point.
Yeah. Oh, there's a list.
Have you done it? Have you done it that way?
No, but I had a friend who did it and said it's quite a lot of work. It's a lot of switching and cutting between. There's a breakdown on YouTube or on the internet somewhere you can find where someone has broken down sort of minute to minute what you watch and when you cut and how far you go into the next thing and then cut back, and it's all very confusing. But yeah, there's a lot of sort of weaving, and basically two things are happening at the same time within the TV show and the movie. So it's
okay.
You get little nods to the movie in the TV show. You watch the movie first. It'll be easier.
It's one thing I love about Star Wars fans is they'll go, like, you guys
watch it in this order and do it this way.
You guys see it how it's released, and you're fine. You go, oh, it was fantastic. But what I would do if I was you, it's like, well, you watched it in the order it was released and it was fine. So why does it matter?
Yeah, it is that interesting thing where it's like, as much as we did watch it in the order of it was released, I watched episode 3 when it came out in 2006. The animated Clone Wars movie came out in 2008, and then the rest of the series ran until 2015, 2016, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So you watching it all at once is actually a lot more difficult then the way that we watched it, just sort of
Drip
as
fed.
they were coming out, sort of, drip fed. You watching it all at once, it probably is better to do it a slightly different way or mix it up a bit. So you're sort of, you're more engaged, you're more sort of all in it. But it is complicated. You could literally do a whole episode about what order to watch the movies in, because so many people have so many different ideas. Like there's some movies that just ignore the Phantom Menace, like some sort of lists. They sort of say you watch A New Hope, Empire, and once you learn that Darth Vader is Luke's father, you go back and you watch episode 2 and episode 3 to see how Anakin became Darth Vader, and then you watch Return of the Jedi. And it's just,
I was going to say, I'd love you to make a Jack's ideal viewing of Star Wars list, but it sounds like there's probably 400 out there that you could pick from.
Yeah, literally. People ask me, and I say, well, what do you want to experience? Do you want to do you want to experience Star Wars, or do you want a certain feeling? Like it all depends on what kind of viewer you are. How do you like to watch movies?
This is definitely
there's a lot of people out there that would just get confused if they had to watch it in release order. Because they'd watch the original trilogy, they'd have all these questions, and then they'd start watching the prequel trilogy, but they can't associate the answers to the questions that they have with the prequel trilogy, if that makes sense. Like, so many people have so many different ways of watching it, they just get confused, and
This is definitely going to be what happens with Marvel after they expand. This is going to be It's 100% going to be. It's going to be the hardest thing ever to understand if you come to it late.
And the TV shows as well. I think we talked about this ages ago. Like, if they start linking the TV shows with the movies and you're not watching the TV shows, you're screwed.
Well, they are. They are. Apparently, Scarlet Witch will be the lead villain in Multiverse of Madness.
Oh yeah, because isn't the whole point of her show that she builds this universe in her head that where Vision is alive or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. It seems like she just goes insane.
So I think she goes insane, and she creates the rift in the multiverse, let's call it, and that's what causes things to start losing control and shifting between, and multiple Spider-Mans bump into each other, and all hell breaks
just
loose.
Like that, we're linked, and it's going to be confusing.
The Fantastic Eight are fighting over in the corner.
Fantastic Eight.
Hugh Jackman's dead, but then there's another guy with claws. Oh. All right, Ryan Reynolds is sitting there like, sick.
Ryan Reynolds appears as Green Lantern, and everyone's like, wait, now I'm really confused.
And he was also in Blade. He just shows up in Blade with a goatee. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot he was in Blade. You know what? Actually, out of all of this, what this conversation's made me want to do is go and watch Blade, I think. Blade 2 is unreal. Go and watch Blade 2.
Go watch Blade 2, but also keep in mind that John Wesley Snip, what is his name?
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes. I'm losing my mind.
John Wesley Snip.
I'm getting confused with bloody Star Wars where Ahsoka gets called Snips or whatever she got, or Nips or whatever. Anyway,
Nips.
Whatever. It's fine.
You've lost your mind. Keep going.
Keep in mind that the onset drama between John Wesley Snipes and everybody else.
Wesley Snipes.
That's what I said.
You said John Wesley Snipes.
John, his name's John now.
Is that his name?
I think so.
Has he changed it? Has he gone through this whole reform thing after prison?
Maybe I'm not. Maybe I actually am just so stupid.
Maybe he never used to go as John Wesley Snipes. Hang on, I'm Googling.
Oh, I'm thinking of John. You know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of John Wesley Shipp, who is the original Flash from the '90s TV show. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh yeah,
that's really funny.
The dad from the
Wesley Snipes.
It's Wesley Trent Snipes for those playing
Wesley
along.
Trent. Okay, Wesley Trent Snipes and Ryan Reynolds hated each other. Oh my God, I almost did it again. Wesley Snipes basically only spoke to people using Post-it notes on the set of Blade. I don't know if you knew about that, but there was a lot of drama on the set of Blade.
Yeah, he's meant to be a really weird cat though. Obviously he's since served prison time. He's a bit of an unstable dude. He wanted to play Blade again, you could make the argument though, given his past, Wesley Snipes doesn't really fit the Disney mold. Yeah. Could you imagine him in a Disney function, the Christmas party? It's like, I bought the kids, Wesley. So yeah, probably not going to be there. But I might go watch Blade. Good watch.
Yeah.
Jack, we'll leave it there.
Or go watch the 90s Flash show with John Wesley.
Yeah, John Wesley's ship. That's one way to end
or
the
Wesley
show,
Snipes. You pick.
Thanks for jumping on the podcast, mate. It's always good fun. I knew you'd enjoy my Star Wars stuff that I had. And keep watching Mando. I might get you back on at some point, maybe at the end of the season, and we can discuss what we thought of the season as a whole.
Yes, I like the sound of that.
I'm loving your setup, mate. Looking very good. If people are listening to the audio, jump on the YouTube and you can see what Jack's looking like in his little...
Check it out. It's epic. Look at my huge Rebel base.
Rebel base. It looks very impressive, and it's made me want to get the Batcave as my backdrop. So I'll see if I can put that together. Jack, cheers, mate. Thanks for jumping on.
Cheers.